How's it going, everyone? It has been a Lone Vault Wanderer here with another discussion video on Bethesda's recently announced Creation Club. I'm sure you all know exactly what it is, but if you didn't watch Bethesda's E3 press conference at E3 this year, essentially it's Bethesda's new service for Fallout 4 and Skyrim, whereby internal Bethesda developers, external developers, and also as well the community or certain selected traditional modders, if you will, are able to create new content for Fallout 4 and Skyrim, which is sold via credits to consumers, and they get a cut of that. And presumably as well, these credits are purchasable via real-world money. I don't know if they're accessible by any other way, maybe by playing the game, unlocking achievements, etc. But as far as we know, the only way to get credits is by using real-world money and buying them in that way. And a large part of the discussion when this was announced, and you know what, even I'm guilty in this, so I'm calling myself out in this video too. A large part of the discussion was whether Creation Club is paid mods, whether this was paid mods 2.0. And yes, I had that discussion too, and I looked at, both sides of the argument, as I usually do. I'm pretty neutral in my videos. And since then, even when you read the comments on that video that I made, or content that's been uploaded by other people. Gopher just did a good video about whether we should be calling it paid mods or not. Like, are they really mods? Of course they're paid, but are they really mods themselves? Polygon made an article about whether Creation Club was more like outsourcing than it was paid mods. Matt Grandstuff of Bethesda tweeted me that article and I had a read of it, and there's a lot of different discussion taking place as to what to call this thing, Creation Club, what to characterize it as. Because when you look at it, you could literally call it anything. If you were to tell me Creation Club is paid mods, I can't disagree with you. Because one, you are paying for the credits, which are used to pay for the content / mods. And second, when you are buying content that was created by someone we would traditionally call a modder in the community, technically you are paying for a form of mods. However, if you were to come to me and say, well, actually, Lone, it's more like regular DLC or microtransactions, I can't disagree with you either, because a lot of the content, presumably according to what Bethesda is saying, is going to be created by internal Bethesda staff as well. So when you're getting content in that regard, it can actually be more considered as microtransactions or DLC. Also as well, along that side of the argument, when content is created by traditional modders that's then QA'd by Bethesda, does that transform it into something that's not technically a mod? Yeah, I could see that side of the argument too. Also as well, again, going back to that Polygon article, whether it's Bethesda going to an external developer like Obsidian for argument's sake, or whether it's Bethesda going to a traditional modder that is just creating content for this new service, you could see it as a form of outsourcing too, because that's exactly what they're doing. Doesn't make a difference that it's a traditional modder or a development company or studio that's incorporated as a company, etc. Arguably not. So yes, that's been a large part of the discussion, whether to characterize this as paid mods, DLC, microtransactions, outsourcing, polished paid mods, I heard that too. That's been a big focus. But I'm going to come out and say that shouldn't be the focus, I don't believe. Whether you call this paid mods, whether you call it microtransactions, whether you call it DLC or outsourcing, whatever it is, whatever kind of descriptor you're looking to put to this system, Creation Club as a system, I think that's getting away from the actual discussion that needs to be had and the actual question that needs to be had. I think it's actually getting in the way of us addressing this system as a whole properly. Really, who cares whether we call it paid mods or microtransactions, etc.? The question we should just be asking is, do you like this system where internal Bethesda developers, external developers, and traditional modders can create content / mods, whatever you want to call it, for the system and have them be purchasable via credits, which are themselves purchasable via real-world money? Do you like that system in and of itself? That's where I think the discussion needs to be had. We could go on for days and days and days about whether it's paid mods, DLC, etc. But the answer there, really, it's everything in between. It has similarities with every one of those systems that you can't just say, well, it's not that and it's not that, it's this. It's kind of like this Frankenstein's monster that we've really never seen before in the games industry. And we can't really just use those pre-existing terms that we have in the games industry, like DLC, microtransactions, paid mods, etc., and attach it to the system, because it's not doing it justice. It's drawing similarities and it's drawing different features from all of those systems, and it's its own thing. And really, we should be looking at that own thing and saying, do we like that? That, I think, is much more important to discuss and to talk about. Because when you frame it in that way, then you can start to draw the pros and the cons. And I'm actually going to get into some of the pros and cons now, because I've kind of stayed away from giving my opinion on this topic, but I'll give it because there are pros and cons. We can't deny that. And this is kind of similar to a video series that I've been doing with Fallout 4, talking about pros and cons of things that they've changed with Fallout 4 from previous Fallout games. So I'm going to do it here. Let's start with a pro with Creation Club. We get more content with Fallout 4 and Skyrim. That's a pro. But what about a con? Well, if there's not good enough QA or quality assurance with the content that's been uploaded via traditional modders, and if there's not enough quality control and scrutiny from Bethesda itself as to that content, then there's a risk that people are being asked to pay for content that's probably not even as good as what we're getting for free in the community already. If there's little interaction from Bethesda in terms of making sure the content is polished, making sure it's ready, making sure it's actually decent to be sold at a real world cost, then there's a legitimate argument there that maybe we shouldn't be paying for this thing in the first place. Let's look at another pro. I think this is a pro anyways. It gives a chance for people that are traditional modders that are doing this just for fun to be able to make some sort of money out of it. As a YouTuber, I would be such a hypocrite if I said that modders shouldn't deserve to be paid, because right now, I'm making content on YouTube, uploading it. Yes, it is a hobby, but I'm also getting paid for it. There's no real difference between that and a modder creating content for a Bethesda or Fallout game, whatever it is. I think it's cool that they get the chance to work with Bethesda and get paid for what they're doing. But let's look at another con, right? I know that initially Bethesda said that most of the content created for this system is going to be created by Bethesda itself, and only some of it is going to be created by external modders. But what happens if a year down the track where everyone in BGS is busy, and then the only content that's really being uploaded to Creation Club is just by purely external modders? In that way, it's starting to look very similar to the paid mod system we got in the past, where all of the content was created by modders themselves, and not actually by Bethesda. So there is that risk. Let's look at another pro. It's not really detracting away from the free mod system that we have now. Again, I mentioned this in my last video. If you look at the old paid mod system on Steam with Skyrim, because they were the same content, essentially being upgraded and then sold at a premium price, and because it was relatively easy to just upload their content and get paid for it, it was actually undermining and potentially damaging the free mod system that we've been enjoying for so many years. But this system, because you can't just re-upload old mods and make a profit out of it through Creation Club, it must be original content. Free mods are still standing on their own, and then you've got Creation Club doing something pretty different. But let's look at a con. What happens when a lot of great modders that have been creating awesome mods for free for the community for so long are approached by Bethesda and start to only create content for Creation Club? They would no longer be creating mods for free for the community, because why would they do that? They would actually just be creating mods for Creation Club because they'll be getting paid for it. So in that way, this system kind of has a risk of drawing away a lot of great modders from the free modding community and solely putting them towards Creation Club. And someone mentioned this on my last video, even though I did allude to it in my last video as well. But that is a risk. That is a genuine risk that could happen if more and more modders are brought within this ecosystem of Creation Club. And I could go on and on. There are different pros and there are different cons. But the point that I was really trying to get across with this video is that that's where the discussion should be had. If you want to call it paid mods, if you want to call it microtransactions, DLC, a form of outsourcing, polished mods, whatever it is, I don't think that's the real discussion. I don't think that's helping things along in any way. We should just be looking at Creation Club, what it offers, the pros, the cons, etc., and coming to our own conclusion as to whether we like it or not. And if you come to the conclusion that you don't like it, awesome, that's great. If you come to the conclusion that you do like it, awesome, that's great as well. That kind of debate is hitting at the heart and is more fruitful, I think, than trying to be stuck in this argument of semantics and saying, well, it's kind of paid mods, well, it's kind of more DLC, well, it's kind of outsourcing. It's really somewhere in between. And whether you think it sits along the paid mod spectrum or the DLC spectrum, I don't think that's the most important discussion that we should be having. So anyways, Wastelanders, please let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear them. And until next time, this has been Lone Vault Wanderer. Please take care of yourself, and would you kindly keep fighting the good fight.